This is the presentation for Sunday. Let's go through the history of how people have recorded thoughts and ideas and represented them in a way that can be shared and passed on. So cave art was one way, with using pictures before. We don't know what kind of language they had, but they drew pictures of what they would do. And I Ching, I think this is, well, besides some of the older writing systems, but this is a formalized way of an abstraction of the world. So this is what I've seen as the first example of something that codifies the world in a graphical way. And Leibniz Characteristica Universalis, that was his system. Figures in place of words would allow for an algebra of thought capable of expressing all concepts. So he was going down the right path. He didn't finish it. I don't quite know. I don't know enough about it to speak with any authority over what he had, but he was on the right path, but I'm not quite sure where he went with that. Ben Goertzel, he's the AI guru, Hanson Robotics, Sophia is his baby. He calls it Yuri Physics. And these are just a couple of the diagrams I've seen from his work, but he talks about basically a system of analogous to our own universe that a computer can use as reference points so that it knows what we're talking about. So he's even got the name Physix in there. Big tech, all these are attempts to divine, find out, understand how you're feeling about the information, the media, whatever you're looking at. For Amazon, did you like the product or not? All these are feedback systems to understand how you respond to the product or the media, whatever you're looking at. Elon Musk talks about AI being our greatest existential threat, and at the same time, make a whole bunch of them. So there's a paradox right there. He knows it's a threat, but at the same time, it's inevitable. They're so useful. The utility derived from a robot that could replace labor, dangerous jobs, things like that, is so high that it's going forward no matter what. So the threat of AI is independent of that. It's going to happen no matter what. So the idea is we need to have a system of feedback so that we can trust AI. And the way you build trust as well over time, has it helped or not? So ultimately, the question isn't answered. Maybe AI would fake us into thinking that it's helping, and then at the end they decide to exterminate us all, just like all the scary movies. So it's a little bit of a paradox, no matter what. You never know the future. So what we want to introduce is thoughtware, something so we can read the thoughts of AI and we can see what it is thinking in a way that we can comprehend. So the principles of physics are very simple: small, medium, large. And then the organization, these are the only ways things can be organized given the laws of physics as they are. You're either alone off the network, not interacting with others. And depending on how you feel about things, that's not even true. You have gravitational pull because you have mass. So you're interacting. Your gravitational pull affects other things as you walk by them. It's just so small we can't measure it. So single, alone, small, medium, large, and those are relative. You're either the smallest, something in the middle, or the largest, and that's it. Can't be anything else. With two people, I talk people, could be, this is, like I said, this is organization of anything. Two people, two objects. Same thing. One is either bigger than the other or they're the same size. Once you get into 3 or more, excuse me. Once you get into 3 or more, you have the centralized. Centralized is one. Others see that as the authority or greater power than them. Oops. Oops. Decentralized is a pair of these, and then there's distributed. So this is the direction, the path things have taken is from a central authority to distributed authority. A good example is how the cell phone disrupted the flow of information. It used to be expensive to gather and distribute information. Now it's very inexpensive with cell phone. So these are the examples. From the atomic level, you have a centralized structure. DNS is that way. You have the root and then the different zones, and the solar system is a centralized structure. So client is one that has less power or authority than the center. Server has more power or authority than the others. Then peer equal power and authority. So decentralized examples, neurons, for example, in your brain. Flight paths are, you can see the different hubs, and galaxies demonstrate those same patterns. Then distributed. Now chaos gas, for example, that would be a chaotic environment. I throw that in only because there is no authority of which way the molecules are going. They all have their own paths. Blockchain is distribution of authority where everyone agrees on something. They share the database. And then birds flying around. A similar pattern there. It's a flock of birds and they sort of all group together, but not one single one is in charge. So for an example of how to use this, in Amazon, he's CEO. He has the most authority in the company. So it's this pattern of he's bigger than, well, everyone else in the company as far as authority. And you can argue that as far as, I don't know, the board of directors or whoever the company is organized, but he's at least the public figurehead. So Amazon could be seen as a centralized organization with him at the top of it. School is a good example of the mix where you have the teachers, the authority in the classroom, the kids are learning. So in this environment, just the classroom would be seen as a centralized environment. The teacher in the middle, in this case, she's directing the class and the students are learning. Now, this could change. For example, there was a show and tell day, or there was something that one of the kids was presenting to the whole class, and in that instance, the kid would be taking this position of presentation of the authority at that moment, and the teacher would actually flip positions and be watching the student. That would be an example where it would flip. But generally speaking, as a teacher, and what the teacher is intending to do is intending the student to learn and approach this, where the student learns as much as the teacher about that. Now the blue shows, well, the teacher is in a more of a distributed network where there are multiple teachers with multiple classrooms. And it might flip back to this, meaning, well, there's the principal of the school or the headmaster, whatever the format of the school is. But it goes between them all. If you look at all schools as a group, that creates this model where all the high schools in a country would demonstrate a pattern like this, where each high school represents this, and the superintendent, whatever the head of the school is, would be the center, and the teachers would be here, and the students beyond there. That fractal pattern exists like that. dolphins, I put this up as an example, and I recently learned that there is some hierarchy, some for finding food, I believe. But just swimming free in the ocean there just demonstrates a pattern, similar to a flock of birds, something like that. So that would be this pattern. And in of course, there are young dolphins. It would be something like this. So there might be smaller ones, but if you look at a group of adult dolphins, it would demonstrate this pattern here. And this is a mistake right here. That shouldn't be circled. So these are the isotopes of hydrogen. And they all have this pattern where you have the nucleus and the electrons. And you can show the different sizes like that. So that's so those are the basic patterns. You have single, small, medium, large, dual, and one is larger than the other. Then a duo with the same size or authority. Then you have the centralized, decentralized, and distributed. So those are just represented by the differential patterns of the circles in this case. So here, for example, this is where we talk about ethics for AI, for example. This is a pattern of a couple. Now this could be a couple different things here. Because it just represents something from the other. This could be an idea, or it could be fertilization. You know, a new baby, for example. So that's where lots of questions about ethics come in. But interestingly, this would be a vaccine. Also, this same pattern would be a vaccine. Who can say whether you put a vaccine in your body? Who has the right to determine whether you do that or not? And those are cultural standards and legal standards, all sorts of things. And it's up to the person whether they want to comply or not. So that's the argument there. And that's a big topic right now. That needs to be resolved, and that might be a tough one. So here's an example of well, here's the egg, and then there's the chicken, and the egg shell goes away. That would be an example. Or human birth, either way. Same pattern. And the fractal nature is demonstrated here, where this would be a couple, maybe a couple with a kid. So the parental unit is larger than the kid. So that matches this pattern here. For centralized, this would be a family of 2 or more children, with the parents as the nucleus, the nuclear family right here. Then this would be, for example, 2 families going on a trip somewhere or having a party, something. Differential, this could be 2 armies at war, for example. That'd be this pattern. So this is the smaller army, this is the larger army. The geometric shapes are representative of the different levels of power. So there's mind, what you think, what you know, everything you believe, don't believe, everything that goes on in your mind is a circle. The triangle is both voice and money. The square is the body. The pentagon, this is very wide ranging, and that is chemical or mechanical power. So that includes using animals, other people that do work for you. That would be considered represented by the pentagon, along with a lever, a rock, guns, weapons, a train. All these things are mechanical and chemical based. Nuclear is the next level, where it's harnessing the power of the atom itself, whether breaking apart or fusing. That's a level of power that we've recently achieved. So interplanetary, that's the ability to travel into space. So we've been to the moon. and then to Mars, and we've got a space probe heading outside the solar system already. So that would be Interstellar, would be that space probe that's on its way to another star at some time in the far future. And Intergalactic would be not only the next star, but the next galaxy, then universe. So when you talk about ideas, well, are you talking about this universe, or are you talking about an imaginary one where things happen that couldn't happen given the laws of physics as they are? So that would be fantasy stories or science fiction where well, science fiction that isn't based on our science. So we imagine things that can't be in our universe. Intergalactic, for example, Star Wars, the movie, would give this paradigm as in, no, it's not this galaxy, it's another galaxy. And then the people in that galaxy. So that's the heptagon, 7 side. That means space travel. Now, those are all objective measures are all these. Subjective is the mind. So how do you measure the subjective? That's the spectrum. So worst to best. Neutral is in the middle. No, yes, I don't know, or I don't care. Either one. It encompasses whatever doesn't trigger an emotional response is green by definition. Could be acknowledgement or unknown. So that's both something that you know that doesn't trigger thought, doesn't trigger emotion, or something that is unknown. They're both considered green. So for the voting system, for the Q vote, you have no, yes, I don't know, but you have a higher resolution of opinion. Well, how enthusiastic are you for it, or how emphatically are you against it? So it's not just a little bit no, it's a lot no, or I really love it, or yeah, okay, it's an okay idea. It's good, not great. So that's it. You do have negative, neutral, and positive for response, and that's all it can be. Can't be anything else. Or you don't respond. That's the fourth state, is no response. And you don't respond either because you're not presented with the information. You don't have the ability to vote, or you're doing something else. Here's the example of the shark doesn't like bananas, so it doesn't like the green banana. This monkey, well, okay, it looks like he kind of likes green bananas. This baby will eat anything. So here's a banana that would be considered ripe to most people. Baby loves it, of course, because the baby will eat anything. Maybe the monkey likes this one even better than the green one. Shark still hates it. Here's a banana that's getting close to rotten. So maybe the monkey doesn't like it as much. Shark still doesn't like it. Baby, yeah, baby likes everything. What does a shark like? Shark likes to eat babies. So Q slopes, when you have that input with multiple people, you end up with these distribution patterns of opinion. You have a graphical representation of any finite number of opinions will fit in a single picture. There's a positive, there's a negative. Mostly neutral response, a little bit positive, a little bit negative, but nothing very controversial. Here's something most people don't feel strongly about, but there's a faction, there's a number of people that feel very strongly against it. It was mostly positive with some somewhat negative response. Here's something very controversial. Some people love it, some people hate it. Some people, no big deal. Here's something mostly neutral response, somewhat controversial on the fringe of society, but most people don't care much about it one way or the other. Almost universally positive, Some people don't care about it. Everyone else thinks it's a great idea. So this would be a good target idea is this, meaning no one's opposed to it and almost everybody loves it. This would be one of the best ideas right here. Schrodinger's box cutter. Open the box. Is it true? Is the cat alive or dead? That's what that's about. So there's your continuum from 0 to 1, white to black, false to true. So a false vote looks like that, true vote like that. Neutral meaning either I don't know or I don't care if it's true or false. That's the neutral state. And the same patterns, using the same Q slopes, but with a grayscale, you see the same conclusions here. This is something that is everyone believes is true, or they're pretty sure it's true. Everyone thinks it's or confident it's false, or know it's false. And this is something where people don't know or don't care if it's true. Same, but some people are to be considered people that know it's false, but these people just don't care if it's true or false. These people lean towards, yeah, no, I think it's true, but they aren't confident either. So this could be seen as a confidence in the truth. Here's something believed to be mostly good chance that it's true. Some people know it's true. These people lean towards it's not true. And this is something controversial. Yes, it's true. No, it's not. I don't care. I don't care. Yes, it's true. No, it's not. So this is something that is true. I don't care. I don't know. So as a matrix, it would be laid out something like this, where it's 1 to 0, the negative valence, or the positive valence. Using the color and grayscale, looks like that. With some color, this is just a kind of a graphic representation. It breaks down like that. Entropy, I just kind of, that word just means this would be the goal of, this is most of human knowledge is this. You don't know if it's true or false, and you don't know about it, it doesn't bother you. How much, the amount of knowledge that you have versus the sum of human knowledge is negligible. So most things in the world is in this position, are in this position. For ethics, for AI, where do you draw the line? Here's an example of a website, mylife.com. This is involuntary. They gather information that they found on the internet and they've collated it here into one place. And then they have the color scale, red to green. So it's physics. It's already down the path. They're just missing a couple colors. But this is involuntary. Whether you want to be or not, and I don't know how broad their database is, but I'm on it. I've found some friends and family are on it. You don't have a way to get off it. I imagine you'd have to email them. It might take you a while just to get off it. So it's they're attempting to have a social credit score system. They're trying to make it useful. But what does this mean? She has a reputation score of 2.89. Does that mean you can't trust her? Should she take a check from her? Should she babysit your kid? What does that mean? What about her friends and family? Do they think has a good reputation? These are all obviously impossible questions to answer on a wide scale here. And that's the basis of the SupraNet, where you have a voluntary system with a timestamp. So over time, if you choose, that's the key issue. If you go on with a timestamp, that means this is the feedback you'll get from people over time. If you're a consumer, do you pay your bills? Do when you buy something, do you pay for it? Do you fulfill your obligations? And you start out with green, meaning I'm neutral. I'm here. That's it. I'm on it. And over time, with that timestamp, you end up with a cumulative score. Now, one of the unique aspects of it is at any time you can, if your reputation is poor and you want to rebuild it at any time, start a new timestamp. But that's the question of over time, how much can you be trusted if your timestamp is 2 days old compared to someone who has 10 years on the SupraNet with all positive reviews, and you have 2 days? How much more trusted is the other person with a 10-year track record? And where that's valuable is corporations. When they use this for corporations, you end up with a reputation score for corporations. And there, when there are problems, the corporations, if you're a big corporation, there are obviously problems all the time that may or may not be your fault, but you're blamed for it. If you end up with scores over here, there can be indications of resolution. Well, last month we had a problem with this customer, but we resolved it, and here's the documentation of how it's resolved. And at that point, the customer can say, no, okay, I'm happy now. So you could actually repair your reputation online. If you had an orange, talk to the customer, there's an agreement, okay, that's removed, and it gets changed to a blue because it was a mistake, whatever the problem was. It was resolved. Now the customer's happy or super happy. Maybe they're ecstatic. So you can actually improve your reputation by fixing the mistakes. So here's the matrix, 5 by 5. What you think, what you do. This provides a 5 by 5 QR code of action or thought, whatever an instance of time. So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 25 is 625. So there's 625 possible positions for the Sapien game. This is what needs to be developed for a simulation for AI to run. Here's the same thing, but without the grid. This would be a this is good intent, bad action. So this could be seen as a mistake. So this represents the word mistake. I was trying to help, and I made a mistake. Along lots of other words. What other words are there that where you think you're doing the best and you end up doing the worst? That's a mistake. Or this is malintent. This is someone who intends to do harm and they do harm. This is feeling good about helping others. This is feeling bad about helping others. This is a neutral state, not interacting or thinking about others, self-contemplation, or at peace with yourself, for example. This is feeling good and thinking good about yourself. Conway's game of life is a 0-player game, meaning the computer just runs the program. The algorithms of the rules are set up for the game, where the survival of each pixel determines on its position on the board and who else is, however many pixels are around it. And different patterns emerge from that. Some move around, some stay stable. Different shapes are generated automatically over time, depending on how it's set up. So Sapien game, that's the idea of that one, is you have a simulation of conscious humans that can be compared and double checked in the real world, similar to the climate models that they have right now. Supercomputers are used to calculate storms and their projected paths. And those are infamously difficult to predict, but some of the models are pretty good. And this would be a similar thing to predict human behavior. This would be an example of a conversation between these two robots. Action, no action, thoughts, voice. So what you could do is the conversation could be logged using these QR codes and verified. If you disagreed with, if this robot said something that she thinks is nice and it's not perceived to be, then that could be double checked. Rehoboam is the supercomputer in the sci-fi series Westworld, where there was a supercomputer that calculated and saw it doesn't really say specifically, but it talks about a divergence in what it thought was supposed to happen, and that's seen as a cloud or a bunch of disturbance in one part of the circle, and that would be demonstrated with the Q vote as a lot of problems here, something controversial here, the couple spikes. Very peaceful area might be seen as this, where everybody's happy with the situation, and here's a little bit of discontent might be seen as that. So their visualization is just black and white. This one's color, a higher resolution of what's really going on. For big tech, one of the applications would be for Zoom, where you can take a quick vote. Hey, what do you guys think about this idea? And everybody votes. You have an instant, you can see it on the screen, or compacted into one picture, it would look like this. But you see the reactions, you see whether there's consensus or not. No consensus here. There's quite a wide range of opinion. Most people think it's a good idea. Got one guy that doesn't. Most everybody thinks it's a bad idea, except two. And this is something, like I said, it's a voluntary thing. So these people don't have to vote, but if they do, this is what it looks like. Medical records could be kept like this, a record of health. Someone who had a few problems and they're good, hey, they feel great. So this would be a successful diagnosis and successful patient. Here's a good record of a patient who came in who was sick, had a lot of problems, got a little bit better, then they went backwards, and they're better. At the end, they're very happy, and that's it. Then there's someone that just has problems the whole time. And then the people that are up and down. Academics, these could be grades and or attitude, one or the other. So we have a student that had a few problems at the beginning, got a little bit better, then back, then got a little bit better, then at the end they excelled. So that would be the same pattern of color. Sports, same thing. So it's the colors are a universal metric of a subjective state. Neuralink, this would be one of the most obvious applications, is with Elon Musk to use it at Neuralink. For governance, there's a solution of how to take a sort of a litmus test of the opinion. For international negotiations, you could see the opinions of the people in a whole country could be seen in one single bar. And what you're looking for is the cooler, the better. That's all there is to it. Get the cooler colors. That means people are not upset. The warm colors means there's a problem. It may or may not be real. It may or may not be legitimate, but that's the subjective feeling of that. So the goal is to get to these cooler colors. And what you're looking for is, this is a negative pattern here. It's getting worse over time. This is something that's getting better over time. Very simple visual format that can be shared. Something that would be good at the UN, for example, at the conflict resolutions and the war-torn areas. That's headed for war, or that is war, and that's headed for peace. So that's it. takes the most complex of situations and reduces it to a color pattern, and everybody understands the color pattern and which way it's supposed to go. So it provides a universal metric for people to see and share and understand what's going on, and what made these changes and what made these changes. So we're on an Earth odyssey. We have a new tool to discover problems. Well, we already know what the problems are. What this provides is a way to troubleshoot what were the solutions, and over time what resulted, and what was meant to be a good thing sometimes turns into bad, and vice versa. So this keeps track of that. You generate this database. That's the point of the Olympics. The Olympics is to invite big tech, governments, spiritual leaders to get behind one system that everyone can understand, everyone can use, and develop the SupraNet, where you have, using the existing infrastructure, but with this rating system, you develop a reputation score, and corporations can use it to prove their own credibility. It finds problems, whether imaginary or not. If they're imaginary, it's still a problem for that person. If they're real problems, well, of course, you want those solved. But with the timestamps, you generate this reputation over time. And the main thing is with problems with your reputation can be repaired. You can change something from a hot color to a cool color by resolving the problem. Censorship, these are big problems. Different countries have different rules. This would provide a way for both the country and the individual to filter information. Some countries have different ideas about what should be allowed on the internet, and that's fine. This provides a way for censorship of whatever you believe the level of censorship should be. This does that. Censorship is simply red. I don't want that, whether it's at the country level or the individual level at the house. I don't want that in my house, or I don't want that in my country. It's the same thing. Red. Don't show me that in my house or my country. So it provides a handle for governments to control what they want allowed in their country. At the same time, for parents and schools, it's another filter for what they want, what they believe is appropriate. And here's a couple different ways to say exactly the same thing using different patterns. QR code, the disk, using just the geometric shapes with colors. Here's the continuum, the 2D continuum, or sliders. This is one of the puzzles. What do these mean? Where are we headed? And this is the dial. The goal being, because these are fractal patterns, this circle could represent an organization like this, an organization like this, a couple, or a single individual. So this is the ideal where we're already interconnected. For the most part, there's some places and tribes that are off the grid. They don't have the internet. They might not want the internet. It's who decides. Should people be forced to be exposed to the internet? Yes or no? That's an ethical question. But the ideal would be this. By definition, this means it includes the individual. It includes the couple. It includes a centralized government. It includes a dictatorship. It includes a republic, a democracy, includes a communist country, includes all these countries by their own definition. How they organize their country is their own business. This is to coexist with it. So that's a goal. That's the ideal. That would be the utopian future where everything is good and happy. World peace, that's green. That's world happiness. right now, AI at the binary level there, it can't understand right from wrong. It doesn't understand good and bad other than what it's programmed to understand, what is good and bad. And this integrates the voice of the people, the popular opinion is seen, and the patterns of rationale and the reasoning process is made obvious using the high definition of opinion with the color scale. So at that point, you have a computer that understands human thought, understands human emotion, understands what consequences yield what results psychologically. The emotional response to a given situation. What causes people to be happy? What causes them to be mad? That's different for all people, but now you have a sorting mechanism.